Coming up on today's San Francisco 49ers Report, some 49ers cut candidates after OTAs and after minicamp. Which players are on the bubble? Before we begin, though, some people are calling me Mr. San Francisco because I cover the Niners, 81,000 plus subscribers. I also cover the Golden State Warriors year-round as part of our NBA coverage here under the Chat Sports umbrella, which is approaching 56,000 subscribers. To those of you in the Bay Area who are also Warriors fans, you might not know I also talk Dubs as well, so make sure you subscribe. That link is in the description and comment section of this video. All right, let's get it. Happy Friday. Welcome into the 49ers Report. Hope all of you are getting set to have a fantastic weekend. And if you're watching this as the weekend is underway, hope you are having a great weekend. On the show today, some 49ers cut candidates, taking a look at which players are on the bubble after mandatory minicamp and after OTAs. Let's begin here with Ambry Thomas. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago. This is really a product of attrition here, just because the Niners have a lot of depth at that cornerback position. And Ambry Thomas, as a rookie third-round pick out of Michigan, actually impressed me and a lot of other people, as well as this organization, going down the stretch. He had that game-clinching interception in Week 18 against Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams. Thought he was pretty good in the NFL playoffs as well. But then last year, because of a byproduct of him being injured, but also Deommodore Lenoir playing really good football, only played 41 snaps in year two after starting 5 games during his rookie campaign. And a reason why he's on the bubble on top of that, Deommodore Lenoir is cornerback number 2, but the 49ers really have stacked up the depth at that cornerback position, as I alluded to a little bit earlier. Samuel Womack is impressing a lot of people this offseason. The 49ers drafted Darrell Luter Jr. in the 5th round out of South Alabama. He has a pro-ready skill set, although he was not able to partake in mandatory minicamp for undisclosed reasons. And then the Niners signed Isaiah Oliver, who's not necessarily an outside corner, plays more in that nickel slot, but he's a really good player who I think is going to surprise a lot of people here coming to the Bay from the Atlanta Falcons. And Ambry Thomas, certainly impressive as a rookie, but missed all of 2020 during that COVID year at Michigan, and then barely played in 2022. So he's barely had a lot of football experience under his belt, and that's not ideal. And you compare him to Womack, who played a lot at the college level and sparingly last year, and then Darrell Luter Jr., who also played a lot at that college level too. Ambry Thomas has the ability. He did okay during mandatory minicamp and these offseason activities when he was on the field, but for him, it's all about proving it when the pads get popping. Niner on the bubble number 2. This might come as a little bit of a surprise to some people. It is Elijah Mitchell, but it's not a surprise to me because we talked about him earlier this week when we were talking about Jordan Mason and his ascent during our Niners minicamp winners and losers segment. You know the saying out there. You can't make the club from the tub. And Elijah Mitchell is a really talented player. He frankly has not been available enough, and he's been injured far too often throughout his first 2 years of his career. And during mandatory minicamp, he was once again on the sideline with an undisclosed injury. It really is a shame because Elijah Mitchell, as a rookie, really good player, and I really like his vision. He has so much talent, but he can't stay on the football field. It's always one thing or the other. And when he's out and another player is climbing up the depth chart and improving his craft and coming into this offseason in better shape, we're talking about Jordan Mason here, who had a great minicamp and caught the football out of the backfield. That puts Elijah Mitchell squarely on the roster bubble. And Ty Davis-Price, 3rd-round pick out of LSU back in 2022, could be a player who is RB3, and then what happens if Elijah Mitchell is injured once again? Now, his career stats through 16 games, this is basically the entire regular season here, really good numbers. 252 carries, more than 1,200 yards, 4.9 yards per carry and 7 touchdowns. If he did this in a single season, we're talking about a guy who is really impressive and displays a lot of ability, right? But to play 16 games throughout 2 years and then to be injured once again heading into year 3, that is problematic. So will Elijah Mitchell make the 53-man roster? I hope he does because I like the player. M for make, W for won't make. Take a guess. Let me know down in the comment section. Javon Kinlaw. Like Ambry Thomas, we talked about him back a few weeks ago. He continues to be so underwhelming, so frustrating, and it really is disappointing what's happened with Kinlaw because when he was drafted in 2020 in that first round, it had the potential to be a great first round because Brandon Ayuk, drafted later on in that same first round, has ended up being a fantastic player. Kinlaw, on the other hand, he's been an absolute bust. They declined his 5th-year option, did the Niners, because he's always hurt, and they don't want to have to give him that guaranteed money as a first-round pick like they are with Ayuk, who's going to make $14 million plus next year. 2020 first-round pick who's played not many games, only 24 games since 2020, only has 1.5 sacks. The pick kind of confused me at the time because he had some knee issues at South Carolina, and he's had a lot of knee issues at the NFL level. If the Niners were to cut him, as I believe he is right on that roster bubble, San Francisco would have to eat $4.9 million. But cut your losses now because what's more important? The $4.9 million or having a player on this roster who can actually be consistently available and impactful for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations. And what do you know? At Niners Minicamp, once again, it was Javon Kinlaw who was on the sideline, not in between the lines. And that continues to be a very frustrating issue for this organization, but also for some fans out there. If you want to interact with me on social media, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I've been putting out a lot of clips on my Twitter and Instagram from the show. I tweet out all of the content that I do. Also cover the NFL, the entirety of the NFL, NBA, as well as college football here at Chat Sports. And I'm also really into health, fitness, wellness, and all that stuff. So don't be a stranger. Don't be scared to slide in the DMs. Say what's up, regardless of where you're watching from all across the world, because people literally tune into the show all across the world and love to chop it up with everybody. So give me a follow, slide in my DMs, say what's up. Don't be a stranger at Chase_Senior. Now to Charlie Woerner. I thought that this was a possibility during the NFL draft when we saw San Francisco draft Cameron Latum and they drafted Braden Willis. So the Niners in the 2023 draft, they take 2 tight ends. That has to put one of these veterans, whether it's Ross Dwelley or Charlie Woerner, on the roster bubble as a cut candidate. And Latou had a long touchdown during minicamp. He has underrated speed. He did run a 4.7 40-yard dash in the pre-draft process, but his on-field in-game speed is a lot better than that. I like his athleticism. I think the Niners saw that in him as well. Don't get blown away by the RAS scores, the relative athletic scores, but I think Latou can be a good football player. And let me ask you this question as well. What has Charlie Woerner ever done? Barely had any college production, has had little to no NFL production, and why would you draft 2 tight ends if you're going to let one of them go and take a known commodity in Charlie Woerner over an unknown commodity who actually has a lot of potential in Latou as well as Braden Willis? So you look at this Niners tight end depth chart here. Obviously, George Kittle, the best all-around tight end in the NFL as a blocker and pass catcher. He's certainly one of the top overall tight ends in the NFL outside of Travis Kelce. You have Ross Dwelley, Charlie Woerner after that. I think Willis and Latou, they make this football team. Willis can play special teams. He had one of the highest broken tackle rates among all tight ends going into the draft this year, and I'm kind of bullish on Latou as well. So I think Woerner could be on the outside looking in and or Ross Dwelley as well. So who's the second best tight end on this roster? That's one of the great debates right now as we're about a month and change away from Niners training camp. Drop me a name. Brandon Allen, our last Niner on the bubble. I thought it was hilarious how Gary Papa, or is it Greg Papa? I always get confused because I grew up in Philly, and either Gary or Greg Papa was a very famous news anchor in Philadelphia. Papa, though, the play-by-play announcer for the San Francisco 49ers, he had said, look, you know, if, as I get sidetracked here, let me see. Gary Papa is the play-by-play guy. Might be on that. No. Yes. No. Greg Papa, excuse me. My gosh, I'm off the rails here, but we're at the end of the show. You can all laugh with me. Rip me in the comment section if you want to. So Greg Papa, the Niners play-by-play guy, I thought this was funny. He was like, look, Brandon Allen's been impressing a lot of people. That could allow the San Francisco 49ers to trade Trey Lance. In what world, as you look at this Niners quarterback depth chart, would you take Brandon Allen over Trey Lance or Sam Darnold on this team? In no way, shape, or form does that make any sense. But it is interesting because Greg Papa does literally get his paycheck from the San Francisco 49ers. Doves has some intel. But as soon as the Niners started hyping up Brandon Allen, that's when he really struggled, when their practice session was actually open to the media for the final 2 days of that mandatory minicamp. Greg Papa, Greg Papa, Greg Papa. I'm never going to get that wrong for the rest of my life. All right, which of these players will get cut? Let me know. It could be multiple. It could be one. It could be none. So if that's the case, list another player. Thanks for watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. Salute to all of you. Have a great weekend. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll catch you next time here on the show.